Hey guys, it's Norm from Tested.
It's Adam from Tested.
And we are here in your cave.
We are.
One of the things on the shelf in your cave is this statue sculpture skeleton of a dodo.
Right.
And when we first saw it, we didn't know if it was a real dodo skeleton or not. And you had told me it's not.
It's not.
You made this.
Well, so I did a TED talk about this that has been going around the world over the last 5 or 6 years. And it starts with a long description of how this dodo skeleton came about. I was doing a craft day with my kids. We had a bunch of Sculpey. And I had recently seen this photo in the New Yorker of a dodo skeleton that had really compelled me.
Drawn photo.
No, a picture.
Photo. Okay.
A beautiful picture, really close up with a shallow depth of field, a lot of personality in this extinct bird. For those of you who don't know, the dodo is a bird that was discovered and rendered extinct all within about 150 years in the island of Mauritius off the east coast of Madagascar. On this craft day, I decided to make a dodo skull. And so I took some of the Sculpey and I just started doing it.
For people who don't know, what is Super Sculpey?
Super Sculpey is one of the best materials in the world. This is it. Super Sculpey. There is regular Sculpey. It's not as good.
What's
as
super about
Sculpey.
this?
So Super Sculpey is basically it's a modeling clay.
It's like Play-Doh.
It is like Play-Doh, except that it moves much more like a plastilina, like an oil-based clay, which is lovely. But it doesn't have sulfur in it, so it doesn't make your fingers stink like normal clay. It also, once you're done sculpting with it, it takes silicone very well, so you can make castings of your object very well. With regular sulfur-based plastilina clay, you must seal it before you cast it in silicone because sulfur inhibits the curing of silicone, and I have known many people to get really boned by that. Now, Sculpey, you can bake it to harden it as you go, and so I did that. And once I had a skull, it was pretty good. So I thought, and I had armature wire coming out of the back of it so I could hold it up and sculpt it. And I thought, I could use that armature wire just to
hold up the vertebrae and
make a spine. And I have collected enough animal bones over the years that I do sort of have an understanding of the physical mechanics of how the different surfaces of a vertebrae work in tandem with the musculature in order to protect the spine and distribute the load of the body's torque along the rest of the skeleton. So this is my interpretation of vertebrae, one by one, slowly made them, slowly threaded them on, and then I just kept on going. So I made each of the ribs, baked them separately, and then glued them in. I made what's called the keel sternum, a very distinctive part of the bird's musculature, the pelvis, and then the legs. I actually had some fantastic reference for the legs, some skeletons found in Mauritius, photographed almost like scanned with a ruler sitting next to them. And so I actually scaled most of this guy off of that. But it is entirely Super Sculpey. It's entirely baked with some aluminum armature inside. And then it's finished by spraying on a clear lacquer and rubbing in graphite.
That's how you get the color.
Yeah, that's where I get the kind of shine that you can see here. And then I augmented that graphite with a little bit of gold and bronze powder just to kind of bring out some details and make it look a little more aged.
And you're going for like a museum exhibit, right?
Well,
Natural History Museum.
Even so far as I commissioned this vitrine from Tap Plastics to put it over it, and that's actually what it lives in. I've shown it in several places. I even wrote out an essay of the history of the dodo. Again, I wanted it like I had a museum exhibit in my house. I don't know why, except that kind of thrilled the 10-year-old in me.
And also, it's not so easy to acquire a real dodo skeleton.
But in fact, there are no real dodo skeletons. And in point of fact, there are no complete dodo skeletons. It's such a sad story. The Museum of Natural History in England had one. But in some zeal of space saving back in the late 19th century, they burned a whole bunch of what they considered their lesser artifacts. And so with the dodo that they had, they cut off its head and they cut off its feet and they burned the rest. I know.
And so it's just composites.
Every dodo skeleton currently on view in the world, whether it's on Mauritius or the London Museum of Natural History, whose skeleton I've gone to see, to the Royal Ontario Museum, they are all chock-a-block of several different skeletons.
So there are more probably complete Tyrannosaurus Rex skeletons than there are whole dodo skeletons.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weirdly rare considering how recently they went extinct. There are archaeologists on Mauritius today trying to find caches where they can know that they're all from the same skeleton. It's very, very difficult to do because you can find a whole bunch of them in one place. That doesn't necessarily help you figure out which one went with which skeleton.
Right. But next to your dodo looks like real bones.
Well, they look like real bones. So this is actually quite an exciting find. When I first went looking for dodo, when I get excited about something, I start absorbing everything that I can about it. I want to know everything that's out there of the state of the art. There was somebody who sold a Dodo Skull online on eBay. It was a little too expensive, but I used it as a major reference for this. And so about 2 months after I finished this, it turned out that the Royal Ontario Museum in Canada has a Dodo skeleton, which for the first time any museum's ever done this, they sent to a place to have a casting made of it.
Okay.
Now, they wanted to do this for educational purposes so that other museums may less expensively buy a Dodo skeleton. They're of an inestimable value if you have one.
Yeah.
So a lot of museums should have them, so they made this available. I managed to purchase either the first or second casting out of the molds of the Royal Ontario Museum's Dodo skeleton. So starting with the skull, I was actually, if you look from here, you can see I'm not nearly fat enough in my Dodo skeleton because not many people had taken photos from the front. But from the side, I've actually got a lot of the details pretty darn close. It's not bad at all. I actually think I got the style of the beak quite well. The vertebrae, I never thought the vertebrae were going to be totally accurate, but I am quite pleased with how the keel sternum came out. Again, though, I'm undersized by a fair bit. It turned out that dodos, by and large, are a lot taller than this.
Yeah, about 3 feet tall.
Yeah, and mine's only about 2 feet tall. But so I think the keel sternum details I got were pretty right. And then the legs, again, I felt like
that's pretty close.
My legs are actually pretty darn close. They match on a topological level. Really, I'm pretty happy with how they came out. So you may be wondering why I haven't built this skeleton yet. So there's a good reason for that. There's 2 more Dodo projects in the works. Now, one of them is to fully complete this skeleton.
And this came in, all the pieces are separate, they're numbered, so it's just like putting a puzzle together.
It's just like putting a puzzle together, and I'm having to do the same job that a museum conservator would do. Now, I happen to believe that the Royal Ontario Museum's Dodo's pose isn't right. Now, I am not a bone specialist. I am not a mammalian specialist. I have no area of expertise in this, except for the fact that there are different poses of Dodo skeletons in the way that their central carriage is kind of caged in with the ribs and the keel sternum. And some of them have this kind of look. And the Royal Ontario Museum has a much wider sort of belly structure, and I don't think it looks as good. Honestly, that's the only reason. It's aesthetically. So I will actually put this together in a way that's slightly different than its original is put together. I'm not going to trim any of the bones, but I'm going to give it a slightly different pose. So that's one whole project, is putting this guy together in his entirety. The second involves this box, which is Dodo skeleton, feathers, etc. This is the box out of which we pulled all of this stuff, and in it I've got
feathers,
hundreds of feathers. I've got some complete bird wings.
So what birds are these from?
I have the slightest idea.
So you just went online.
I went online, looked up bird wings, bird feathers. You can buy this stuff by the pound, which, by the way, it's incredibly inexpensive. This is a $1/4 pound of feathers.
Oh, they're light.
What I want to do is I want to build a dead dodo.
Wow.
So
you build the skeleton first.
Well, no, actually, so for the dead dodo, all I need really are the feet and the head.
Okay.
The interior structure is actually going to be probably wire so that it moves around and it moves like a skeleton. I will maybe vacuum form this spine in order to get the lines right. But then what I will do is I will sew its body out of fabric, and I will sew its skimpy little wings and everything out of fabric, and then I will hot glue a full set of feathers to it so that, and paint the eyes and make the eyes really look accurate, so that in the end, what I seek is a really well taxidermied dodo, but that's dead and limp. And literally, I will have it in my house, like, it will be lying on the floor, and people will say, "What is that?" And I'll say, "It's a dead dodo," and they'll pick it up and it'll be limp like a piece of meat that you found
All
on
of
the
that
island.
for that one effect.
Yes,
That's wonderful.
That's what I want. I don't want the taxidermy pose like it's on its way to the mall. I want it lying there dead on the ground. For some reason, that image thrills me, and this is it's all ready to go. I just haven't gotten
And
around
everything is going to build up to that. The casting of the skeleton informs the body
Yes.
structure.
Exactly, and in fact, how big it is, and how I make the interior structure and the outer skin. So it's again, this is Dodo 1.0. This will be Dodo 2.0. This will be Dodo 3.0.
We'll have to come back to that. Thanks so much, Adam.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back in the cave next time. I'm Norm. I'll see you guys next time.